I talked about a certain type of villains and wanted to mention another one that I've heard some things about and wanted to basically ask myself a question if it's possible to create a villain whose ultimate goal is just to destroy everything and everyone. And I think that it's possible if the villain is menacing, consistent at trying to reach his supposed goal, and if the motivation for his thoughts and actions is properly developed, which might be the biggest problem, the largest obstacle in creating such a villain for me without resorting to cliches or overused reasons that are usually connected to our history or our values, which is something that I would like to avoid the most, which is directly connected to the motivation that the villain has for his actions against the protagonist or the side characters. If it's a personal grudge or if it's a general reason that the characters maybe interfered with some of the villain's plans or just were in the wrong place in the wrong time. And I don't think that it's sustainable to always introduce a personal reason for the antagonist to hate the protagonist and hunt him down no matter the cost, because that's how some stories end up with these contrived reasons or completely unbelievable scenarios. And I think that probably a healthy combination of those two is the way for me to approach these villains, these opposing forces. While, as I've mentioned, I would like to be able to introduce villains that are not exactly normal or understandable to the characters in the story, and for them being able to explain their motivations to me as the reader in a way that would convey their desires while keeping them alien enough. This is again just a lofty aspiration which has been done before in stories by much more skilled story writers, but I still do think that such concepts have place in my stories, and I think that I do have some ideas, maybe not a perfect construction, but the more I think about these types of villains, the more I think that it's not exactly always needed and always good to try and explain them in every single way possible, because it might take away some of that foreign feeling, and it's definitely something that I'll attempt to go deeper into and think a bit more about in the future stories that I would like to write once I'm done with my current one. And for now, that's enough about the villains, and time for more rapid arrows. Last time we had some good deeds, we had some not so great ideas, and that is exactly where we are going to continue from now on, because the rapid arrows, still on their trip, now in the forest, found a slide. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. I can imagine it working on ice or snow, but this is during late spring, and this is just a slide in name only. Smooth surface between the trees that ends right above a forest road, which in turn is right next to a small stream, and the club members just squat down and ride the slide all the way down in that same posture. Again, I'm not exactly sure if it works, I've never tried myself, but let's go with that. First one going is obviously Mirek, and at the end of his ride, he is just able to stop himself from falling into the water. So the next two go, and surprisingly, there are no accidents, but then Yindra decides to take a step back and gives himself a nice little boost by running before squatting and going down the slide. Even he himself during the ride questions how is he going to stop, which he obviously is unable to, and falls right into the stream. When the rest of the boys attempt to get him out, the last one, Jarka Metelka, is just going down the slide, and he himself is again unable to stop, and thus the whole club earns themselves a rather chilling bath, with Speedy ironically wishing them all happy Easter. Their next adventure begins with a short 2-day holidays that the club members are going to spend on another trip. Speedy making a small mistake during packing and even joking that he might have to drag all of his baggage behind himself on a barrow. When he is unable to continue even walking, Mirek tells him to next time pack less and only what's actually essential and what he is actually going to need, and the rest of the club members split a portion of Speedy's bag between themselves to help him out. When the night is approaching, they reach a farm and the owner lets them sleep in the barn. When the boys are going to sleep, they hear someone moving around, and even the dog that was there isn't barking. So Mirek and Yarka go for a reconnaissance, and the rest of the boys go and fetch the owner while Mirek and Yarka are holding back the wannabe thief. He then gets apprehended under the threat of a rifle, and with the thief locked for the night with the pigs, the owners are obviously very grateful towards the club members for saving their belongings. The boys are happy that they were able to repay the favor of letting them sleep over in the barn. Next one is a bet between the club members. Two of them, Yarka and Speedy, being fans of one football club and the rest of the boys being fans of another one. So after a slightly provocative taunt from Speedy, they decide to make a bet who's going to win, and if Speedy loses, he has to wear a fake mustache. Meanwhile, if the other three boys lose, they have to sing Christmas carols for an hour on the street. They write everything down, and then it's time for the match. The results are quite clear, and Speedy has to wear his fake mustache while boys are giving him some hints. If he is shy, he can wear a veil, and Mirek tells him that it better be a proper mustache, not some toothbrush to obvious displeasure of Speedy, and the next day he actually wears a rather mighty mustache to great amusement of his fellow schoolmates and friends. Then during classes he is trying his very best to hide his fake mustache, but unfortunately he is called by the teacher to come to the blackboard, and when the teacher asks him what's the meaning of this fake mustache, he admits to the bet. Fortunately for him, the teacher is sympathetic and tells him that he is still fine, he is going to just take it off in the evening, but the poor teacher has to actually grow himself a full beard, to another large wave of amusement of all the students in the class. Next one is another good deed. The club members notice a classmate who's having a rough time in his family, who also has his birthday next week. So they decide to come together and get him some presents and money. Speedy breaking into his piggy bank, Yarka digging through some of his old clothes, unintentionally creating a scene of a robbery. The rest of the boys organizing a fundraiser in their class that gets interrupted by one of the classmates who begrudgingly says that everyone should just care for themselves. Karma strikes him quite fast when he is getting beaten up by some of his classmates and is yelling for help. Jindrak tells him that everyone should just keep to themselves, and Redcap's mom even bakes a cake for the young boy. And when the day of his birthday is finally here, the boys just carry all the presents in front of his house, and Mirek then explains to him that some of his known and even unknown friends are wishing him happy birthday, and that there is even little something for his mom. Good message, good deeds done, and it's time for some racing. Another club challenged Rapid Arrows to a race on bicycles. The rules are set and known to all, and the race begins with Mirek and another boy from the competing club being the first ones to set on a 2 kilometers track. Their duel is interrupted by a reckless driver who's driving on the wrong side of the road, and he actually sweeps Mirek away, steps on it, and opens up the exhaust so that no one can see his number plates. The other boy attempts to catch up, but unfortunately the car is too fast, and meanwhile the audience and the club members gather around Mirek, trying to determine if he is fine, if he can walk. Fortunately, the results are fine. He is not really injured, but his bicycle is destroyed and one of his hands is slightly roughed up. Then they report the car to the police and they make an announcement via radio that this red closed up car is responsible for a crash while riding on the incorrect side of the road, while the car did suffer some damage as well. So other clubs that heard the announcement are going to search for it in all the car services. They find the car, and after the owner's attempt to escape with the car is foiled by the workers there, he gets arrested, has to repay the price for the destroyed bike, and there will be other consequences for him. Mirek then gets the money for a new bike with a firm warning to never ever organize races on bicycles on a public road again. And that's where I'm going to stop for today. I am going to talk a bit more about some characters in stories and then more rapid arrows in the next video.